usually joined by Jordan, but it looks like we've got a Queenslander here, Mr. Roy Sabritsky, filling in for him, mate.
Queensland, Queensland, baby. We're here. Get out of here, bro. Sorry about that, Sammy. I don't know what he's here for, bro. We must be living near a mental asylum or something because we don't usually tolerate people wearing those colors in our household. I'm sorry about that, man. I'm back. I'm here.
We don't, man. We don't. Blues up all day. I'm surprised he's even still got that in that household there, mate. You're going to have to cook it in the oven or something later on.
Yeah, I think my dolphin scare is still burning out there, so I'll chuck that quickly on the fire, and yeah, we can get rid of it once and for all because that's poisonous in this household.
How was your weekend, mate? What'd you get up to?
Oh, it's a bit of a big one, to be honest, Sammy. We had our twist off that you unfortunately can't be there because of living in Melbourne now, but we drank enough beers in your memory, and yeah, we're still feeling it now.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, I had a grouse weekend as well. Just ended up working on the Saturday. Unfortunately, we aren't full-time podcasters. We do have that work on the side, so we had to work on Saturday, do that shift there. But had a good weekend, man. A lot of people talk about Melbourne and the food. The food's unreal. We've been to a few different spots. It's real different, like cuisine, I guess. There's a lot of Greek food here, a lot of Vietnamese food here, but the coffee, bro, is pretty top notch as well. A lot of people had spoken about it beforehand, but yeah, I didn't quite expect it. It is real nice. I was actually listening to the Oz Americas podcast as well earlier today, and they had Remus Smith on. I believe he's got his own coffee beans at Woolies as well, so I might grab a couple of those and put them in my suitcase to bring back too.
So they stack up a little better than the old Wild Bean and Z coffees here in New Zealand.
Oh, just a touch, mate. Just a touch. I think they know what they're doing a little bit more than Mr. Flick Your Bean. But as you are well aware as well, Melbourne is very cold. So I'm just going to change into something a little bit warmer here. And it is...
Oh,
It's political season here, Jordan. New South Wales, we've both got the sky blue on. You're rocking the singlet over in the warm New Zealand. I've got the nice Hello Sport political season jacket. It turned up today. I'll be repping it come game 2 when they're here and all the events as well. So I can't wait to get into it. State of Origin, we are going to break down the teams, just discuss everything, what we think will happen, the selections, all of that kind of stuff. So just hold off on that. We'll get through the normal admin before we get to it. You are listening to episode 58, so we're chewing through them at the moment. Now, the team in first place had 40 points put on them, and the team in last place scored 40 points on the weekend. Very wild round. I dropped off a few bets. Do you want to take us through accountability, mate?
yeah. So it was a bit of a rough one for the boys. I mean, as always, we seem to be getting our picks right. So we're both 5 from 8, which is over halfway. It's a pass mark, but a bit of a rough one in terms of the best bets. We started off with a hit, though. Bulldogs beating the Dragons 44-12. I've gone Bulldogs head-to-head into total points over 40.5, which the Bulldogs did themselves. So thank you, doggies.
Yeah, fantastic tip in there. I did laugh at that very first league. The Bulldog covered it just on their own for you in that one. I had Lomax, Sloan, and the Dragons to win at $7.75. I really thought that the Dragons had put in a little bit more of a bigger performance than what they did, but they just got cut to shreds.
Yeah, and then the next game is an absolute heartbreaker because I think Valentine Holmes has it out for me personally, being that he is a Queensland boy and I'm always ripping the sky blue. Cowboys beat the Tigers 42-28. I've gone with the Cowboys minus 14.5 line. He has that kick at the end of the game to make it 44-28. Shanks it off to the right, and we go down by 0.5 per point.
Yeah, I ended up having Val Holmes in mine and a two-legger there, and he crosses over for the try. But Taulangi, he lets me down. There was quite a few times where they went down the left-hand side and that boy was over on the right. Not sure what he was up to there, but we go down at $4.33 odds there.
And then a result that you will be happy about. The Seagulls did beat the Storm 26-20. I've gone with the Storm. I thought they would represent good value as slight favourites, but unfortunately the Seagulls at 4 Pines Park, it is a bit of a fortress. I've gone Storm minus 4.5, which hasn't hit.
Yeah, and I've ended up taking Veiga out on that left-hand side, but Tommy Talau manages just to do all of the work himself, into Manly to win at $4.50. So we get the tick, but we also get the cross and we go down there.
And then the Roosters doing what the Roosters do. 44-16, absolute annihilation of the Raiders. And another player, another centre who's got a bone to pick with me, obviously, because Joey Manu has not released his outside. Hogwarts Manu at it again. I've gone young anytime try scorer, which hasn't come through, but the Roosters 13 plus did. But unfortunately, I've doubled them up, and yeah, big miss there.
Yeah, and I've ended up going Manu, Roosters to win, and Dom Young has let me down there at $4 odds as well. So yeah, tough punting there.
Yeah, Joey Manu, man, just release it one time. You already had your try. He was looking for the hat trick. Panthers beating the Sharks 42-0. The team performance of the round, absolutely outstanding result, absolute domination. I've gone the Sharks 1-12 because of the form they brought into it, but don't write out the champs, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at a donut like that, hell of a performance from the Panthers. I've ended up going Taruva Mulatalo into the Sharks to win at $6.50. So I've had a Barry Crocker there, and I double staked it as well. So a big, big outing for me.
Yeah. Well, I double staked the last one with young anytime try scorer and Roosters 13 plus. So Joey Manu's really hurt me there. Speaking of something that didn't quite hurt, and that's a Rabbitohs win. Rabbitohs beating the Eels 42-26, and we both backed the boys here, even given the form they've held this season. I've gone Rabbitohs head-to-head just at that EDAS $2.05, but it has come through.
Yeah, it might be EDAS, but it's double your money kind of stuff. And I've had Souths win into Alex Johnson 2+ at 575, which we've gone down there, but I feel like that would have hit had there not been an injury debacle and the reshuffle out there. He ends up at fullback and he just doesn't manage to find the line. He goes close a couple of times, but yeah, one, not the two.
And then a big boil over on Sunday. Titans beating the Broncos 36-34. Man, I did really consider the Titans line in my preview, but I must have really sacked it at the end because I've gone Broncos -7.5 at that short line, and it still hasn't hit with a great Titans upset win.
Yeah, and I've ended up going Reece Walsh into Mariner, into Broncos to win at $3.75, and we go down there. Mariner's the only one that gets a tick in that slip for me.
And then, finally, the greatest result of the round. The Warriors beat the Dolphins 24-20. I think Simon did this one, so I can't take too much of the blame here. Pompey anytime try scorer into Warriors 1-12. He did have the Warriors back, so I can, give him some credit there. But unfortunately, he's gone with the wrong try scorer, and it's a down bet.
Yeah, and look, you're only as good as your last win, mate. And my last bet here was my last win. So I had DWZ into the Warriors to win at $3.40. So we can cash one there. As for the repeat set bet, I've gone Broncos into the Sharks head-to-head at $1.97. So that's obviously gone down with the Sharkies.
And I've gone Dom Young anytime try scorer. I was riding that high. I really underestimated the abilities of Hogwarts Manu and his inability to pass. So I've gone down there.
Yeah, and my 40-20 bet, I had Alex Johnson and Dean Mariner, both 2+ tries at $10.68, which go down there. Dean Mariner had quite a few chances there, potentially to pick up the two. And like I said earlier, Johnson got the one, but he lucked out being shifted to that fullback spot. So we go down, but I'm not too upset about that one.
And then a 40-20 bet that got so close to hitting, and I'm usually quite far away, but this one just skimmed over the touchline, and the touchy wasn't quite in position. It's that Cowboys result again. Cowboys -14.5, which I've missed by half a point, and the Rabbitohs hit, which did hit. But unfortunately, another 40-20 down.
Great tipping, though. We were both really high on that Rabbitohs. I guess you could say upset result coming in, so good one to pick in that one, and they finally get a win there. So as for me, that's a -6.6 unit collection from the round, which takes our current units down a stock to 64.08.
And my units, yeah, it's much like you, bro. Quite down, -6.25. But we're still, working with that collection we had 2 weeks ago. So, things are looking up.
Nice. Moving into the Telegram recap, which is obviously the free betting that we do through that application. Dog shit round there, as you'd expect by what we just talked about earlier. No luck there, but on to the next nonetheless. The headlines is obviously State of Origin, which we're going to jump into in a little bit, but I just want to talk about Jerome Luai. We'll discuss obviously his performance as we come up and his Dally M points that he's collected from us. Just quickly, do you think that he's going to be Mr. Fix-It for the Tigers?
He looked very, very impressive with the keys to the ship. But it is a lot different playing off the back of a Tigers pack, which is good and has improved. but it's nothing like that Panthers pack and that Panthers team in general that, have great backs that get you good yardage out of exit sets, and then their forwards just keep the ball rolling up the field as well. So it's yet to be determined, man. He could just be a front runner, but you never know until you know. I'm going to back that he does change life, but he doesn't turn them into contenders. I don't think he quite has that ability to completely turn the ship around. I think they're going to need to add some other pieces to complement him, say like a good fullback. I'm not the biggest fan of Bowler, and maybe some good centers. And they've got Taruva there, which is a great start in terms of a talented winger, but maybe even some better backs just to flush out the back line and give him some weapons to work with when it comes to playing in that strike zone that he does so well. So, yeah, maybe just a few more pieces. It's not going to take him alone.
I hear you. I agree with that in terms of the forward pack that he's obviously playing with, the platform that they set for him week in, week out. Well, obviously for Nathan and what he plays on that left side. But in this game, which is what you can solely sort of base Jerome in that, I guess, 7 kind of role, they did set the platform for him perfectly. And a lot of people are talking about him being that game manager. He played a game manager in this one, but he predominantly still played on that left-hand side as well. So it'll be interesting to see when he comes to the right. I think the only tick for him, I guess, coming out of that, in my eyes, was the kicking game, which is the big kind of concern for them. Is he going to be able to relieve that pressure? I think he had 621 kicking meters in this one. They were good kicks, but it's nothing when your pack's under pressure and you're having to relieve that pressure. Those big, long, ranky punts that we see from the likes of Nathan, Moses, DCE. I know he's not going to be in that kettle of fish, but if he's going to turn the ship around, it's something he's going to have to work towards. So it will be very interesting to see how that all goes. Just thinking about it, we'll go through the power plays of the round and the performances of the round, and then we can get into the nitty gritty of Origin afterwards. So we'll start off the power play, brought to you every week by TBC Live. For me this week, I'm just going Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. I don't have a sole play in mind because there were so many power plays, I guess you could say, throughout the whole game in this one. It's just every single time off the back fence, the way that he just flies back off it and throws himself into that defensive line. No respect for his body. It's just all heart. It's funny, he's obviously come from that system in Penrith, and then he's played a little bit of fullback and dabbled in that with the Bulldogs, but he's an out-and-out winger because he doesn't pass. He's just run-first mentality, but man, that guy's got a whole lot of mana in the way that he was bringing back those returns with some venom.
Yeah, he's all effort, man. You can critique certain elements of his game, but there's one thing you can't critique, and that goes for his 200 games in the NRL, and that is his effort. He is always giving full effort, and you can even see that from the try. He kind of had to bustle over and do a lot of work to get that ball down. So yeah, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, absolutely outstanding again, and he epitomizes the heart that the Warriors showed in these last 2 results that have been major upsets in the eyes of the bookies. So Watene-Zelezniak proving his worth once again. I've actually gone with Tom Weaver's game-saving tackle on Corey Oates, and it came at a crucial time because the Titans were leading 36-34 with 4 minutes left to go, and the Broncos shifted wide, leading to a Karapani breaking the line. But Tom Weaver never gave up on the play. He was kind of lagging behind in terms of pace, but that split second that Karapani took to draw and pass the fullback and give it to Oates on the wing, it gave enough time for Weaver to catch up, do the textbook bootlaces tackle, and tackle Corey Oates about 10 meters away from the line and save the game for the Titans. And it just kind of epitomizes the effort, maybe the change in effort that the Titans have shown in recent weeks, holding off these games where they've been under a lot of pressure and holding slight leads, whereas earlier in the season they were losing these close games. So another great defensive effort highlighted by Tom Weaver in this one.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What Desi Hasler's kind of brought to the team, you're starting to really see it now in their performances over the last couple of weeks. It's just been nitty gritty. They're getting in there. They're turning it into a scrap, and these guys whoever's coming in is stepping up. I mean, you got the likes of Fafita playing out in the centres due to injuries and stuff like that throughout the game. So they got guys that are being adaptable. And yeah, Tommy Weaver, man, hell of a haircut on him as well. Fantastic stuff. My performance from the round in the last round is obviously Jerome Luai. The Panthers, 42-0 win over the top of the table Sharks. You look at this one and you look at what happened with the Penrith last week, and you're thinking this is going to be a bounce back sort of performance if Nathan was there, but Nathan isn't there. Luai's got to be the conductor in charge of this ship and sort of right the wrongs of what happened last week, and they come out and to put on a 42-0 performance. He had his fingertips all over this one. He played absolutely fantastic. He's critiqued so much for his jinking running game, but he managed to get it going in this one, and they managed to play off it. He finished with one try assist, 9 tackle breaks, 5 offloads. He had 2 line break assists and 124 run meters. That's almost some fullback type of stuff coming from your halfback. He also finished with, it was 641 kick meters. So 641 kick meters is very, very impressive for a dude that normally parks himself up on that left-hand side and just puts in 3 or 4 kicks a game up into that right winger sort of position. But it was interesting the way that he played this. They had a game plan to obviously target Katoa right from the get-go. And it's not often that you see Luai peppering guys with kicks and playing a very, very tactical game. I was extremely impressed by him and what he did, sort of getting them around positionally off the park. And I think it really cemented his spot, obviously, in this New South Wales Blues team. So you've got to shine a little bit of light on that instead of the way that he exited the team last year to proving his worth. And ultimately, whatever happens with Nico Hines happens with Nico Hines, but I never thought that we'd be sitting here saying that hand the reins to Luai and lead us to the light in this one. But nonetheless, a statement game, and it kind of sort of shines a little bit of light, I guess, on what Benji Marshall was looking at in terms of Luai.
Yeah, a faultless performance. Absolutely impressive performance. One of the best performances we've seen this year from a player. And like he highlighted, he showed it all. He showed a running game, but the commentator said something good towards the late end of the game. He said there was more of a directness to his running. Like, it wasn't just step across and back into the field like it usually is. It was step, and then he would have a go and then maybe set someone else up or jink through the gap himself. He scored a great try by doing that little stepping movement right on the line. So it was just outstanding. The kicking was outstanding. And yeah, man, he just showed that he has a lot of tools in his box that makes him a valuable asset in this New South Wales team, because more than likely, given the way that Nico Hines plays, he has kind of been brought in to be a Robin like he is to Nathan Cleary, and which he has proven to be such an effective Robin in that position over this Panthers dynasty. So they brought him in for that, but if shit hits the fan and we do have to rely on Luai more, he has shown in this game that he is more than capable of taking us to the promised land, like you said. So super impressed with Jerome Luai in this game. And another guy that I was impressed with in my performance of the round is Tamati Martin of the Warriors. And I'm a sucker for a guy that can win me over, because I don't know if I've been doing it on the show, but I've been giving him a little bit of shit lately in his time as a 6 next to Sean Johnson. But really, these last couple of weeks have kind of highlighted to me that he was kind of out of position and that he is a pure 7 all along. And he needs to have a more hands-on approach to orchestrating this offense. And the attack has looked refreshed and a little more dangerous in the strike zone since he has come in. And in this game, he had 1 try, 98 run meters, 1 line break assist, 5 tackle breaks, and 312 kicking meters. And he had 1 try assist too, which I'm counting, which is that flat ball he gave to Niokore, which the stats haven't counted for some reason. But I thought it was a great pass that he got Niokore on the outside of a defender's shoulder. And yeah, Niokore still had a lot of work to do, but he powered over the line because of the opportunity that Tamati gave him. And, you know, he did a great individual try as well, spinning out of that tackle before he had a show and go and splitting 2 defenders and scoring under the post. And I have been giving a lot of his kicking shit as well, because it seems like he hasn't, when he's done the kicks on the goal line, he hasn't garnered a positive result in what seems like forever. But in this game, he got 2 forced dropouts, and then there was that high kick that was contestable for Montoya, which he caught, and then set up Harris DeVita for the first try of the game for the Warriors. So he's obviously shown some ability in that department too, and his territorial kicking has been really good the last 2 weeks as well, which he's been able to find grass on multiple occasions. So I've been super impressed by Tamati Martin. I'm not saying that he is a replacement for Johnson, but he is adequate cover for Johnson since he is hurt and when he is hurt in the future. And it can even be a little glimpse into the future post-Johnson, given Johnson's age. And we don't have to be so reliant on Shawnee J, because the team the last couple of years has sort of had that vibe, but I've really liked what Tamati Martin has shown in the 7th position. So big ups to Tamati.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. In terms of the clunkiness as well that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, I agree. Just in terms of the way he's a bit more of a game manager as opposed to like the likes of Luke Metcalf that can sit out there and just break something open from nothing. And I do like your point that you bring up in terms of SJ. He's obviously carrying injuries at the moment, as we move into the playoffs. So you don't have to be reliant on playing him week in and week out. And then it gives you a little bit of breathing room dependent on what obviously is going to happen ultimately with Jet Cleary as we move forward as well. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room before you rush him into the big time, I guess. And now we're going to move into the Dally M points from the round. Collecting 3 points this week was obviously Jerome Luai, 42-0 result. All the stats to back it up. He ticked off a lot of boxes for Benji Marshall in that one, like we said earlier. Obviously, the kicking meter is the big one. 2 points, though, we're going James Tedesco, Mr. Slips. 2 tries, 2 try assists, 9 tackle breaks, 3 line break assists, and 153 run meters. Just a quick little stat on that one. So the reason why or I guess not a stat, but the reason why he slips over so much is he doesn't actually wear studs in his boots. He only wears cleats. And it's because he did his ACL, obviously, when he was younger, and he said he'd rather slip over than have it twist and pop that one. So that's where the slips comes from. Collecting 1 point though in this one as well was Matt Burden, 20 points in total, 1 line break, 2 tries, 20 from 22 tackles, and 411 kick meters in that one. All 3 of these players playing a very, very big hand and big lopsided wins. Both 44 points there for Teddy and Burden, and then obviously the 42 points there from Luai as well. So fantastic round from all 3 of those.
Yeah, and in terms of grub of the week, we've got another bit of a slow week, so I haven't really been able to find a good one. We have settled on Moses Leota for his shoulder contact to Jesse Ramien's head with about 3 minutes left to go in that Sharks game when they're already up 42-0 and they're going into the Origin period where we know the Panthers suffer so much with guys going into that Origin squad. And yeah, he got away with it. I see that he's been named this week, so I don't know what the appeal process is or stuff like that. But as for now, he's back in the squad. But it just was a little bit unnecessary. He didn't need to drop the shoulder on that occasion. And it was a bit of a brain lapse, not thinking of the consequences it could potentially have on your team going down another forward after losing, Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo to Origin duties. So, yeah, just a little bit of a brain lapse, but, not the biggest grub in the world. I'll give him a passive grub of the week.
Grubby moment. All right, let's move into State of Origin. What we're going to do is we're just going to discuss the teams, break it down, give our thoughts on it all. Obviously, these are the initial teams that have been named, so they are going to be tweaks and changes as we move forward. Obviously, the big one is going to be around Nico Hines, but we'll start off with Queensland because they're probably going to be our in and out as we break down New South Wales a little bit more. So the back 5, Reece Walsh, Xavier Coates, Valentine Holmes, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, and Murray Taulagi. So we'll start off with them. I mean, obviously, Reece Walsh, Coates, Hammer, and Val, for me, were all locks in this one. Val's been a little bit questionable with his performances, but you just look at goal kicking and what he brings to the table. And then I think you had Murray Taulagi. I had Selwyn Cobbo, but yeah, no concerns there from me.
Yeah, I actually changed last second to Selwyn Cobbo. So I initially had Taulagi, but I thought maybe reward the form of Selwyn Cobbo, which they have in a way by giving him a 17 spot in this, temporary starting lineup that they've got. But yeah, I've got no problems there. That's pretty much what I expected. The only reason I could see them going with Taulagi is because he is a very good defender. He's good at, judging where the ball's going to go and shutting down those outside raids. So I do like him coming into the team. And yeah, it's pretty stock standard what I expected.
Yeah, it's a very, very big back 5 as well. There's a lot of aerial threats. There's a lot of power in terms of their carries, and then Reece Walsh, that electric speed that he brings at the back there. Now we move into the halves. DCE named as captain, as you'd expect, and then Tommy Dearden will partner him up in the 5'8" role.
Yeah, also pretty much what we expected. It was obviously out of Tommy Dearden and maybe the bolter Ezra Mann, which they have rewarded with a spot on the outside bench. But, Tommy Dearden was proven last year and he had a great game. I think he's got a connection on that left side if they were to go with Valentine Holmes on that left side. I don't know how they're going to rearrange the team accordingly. But, yeah, he's got connections with the players in that team, Taulagi as well. So, Tommy Dearden, no problems from me.
Nice. And yeah, look, they've got Ruben Cotter and Lindsay Collins named as the props in this one. Patrick Carrigan at lock and Ben Hunt at hooker. this is sort of what we kind of predicted. It's what we've seen, and it's worked really well. I had Carrigan and Cotter the other way around, just to see Carrigan a little bit more in that carrying sort of role as opposed to the ball playing. But I mean, look, it's what's worked for them. I guess there was a lot of discussion as we moved into it whether Ben Hunt was going to be the starting nine, and you bring Harry Grant. Whether Ben Hunt was going to be the starting nine or it was going to be Harry playing that longevity, but it's what's worked for them so well. And you've got a guy like Harry Grant that brings that speed and ups the tempo off the bench, and he just completely changes the game and around the ruck there. So I like what they've obviously done, and I think this probably will be Ben Hunt's last Origin series as well.
Yeah, it's the workman's, front. It's the workman's middle. Like, we were expecting it to be named this way. It's going to take us as New South Wales to change what they've got here, because it's been working the last couple of years. They're strong defenders. They're very fit. They've got a high work rate. They're always making tackles, and that's why they're picked constantly for these teams. So yeah, I was expecting it.
Now we move into the second rowers, and this is obviously the big one with the headlines around it. Jeremiah Nanai and Jaden Sewer in the starting roles. What are your thoughts straight off the top on that?
Well, there is a big elephant in the room, and I don't know what his injury was coming off for the Titans. Was it a head knock that David Fafita did get?
Yeah, but I don't think anything played a part in it in terms of this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if the injury's not playing a part, which it probably wasn't because Nico Hines has been named for the New South Wales Blues, this is very, very interesting. And Jaden Sewell is good, but there is a difference in X factor and ability that David Fafita brings. He is a lot more dodgy, maybe defensively. He does have some lapses in defense, but David Fafita, there is a definite trade-off that I think is positive for him. And, it's bold picking these guys. They obviously fit the mentality of workmen who just roll their sleeves up. And, Nana has a bit of X factor, but for the most part, they just do hard carries and defend solidly. But I'm very surprised not to see Fafita in this team.
Yeah, you bring up defensively, your concern around him. And if you're going to be looking down that route, you kind of think of Nanai being a bit more of a defensive lapse as well. From what we've seen with the Cowboys as well, I think David Fafita's been pretty solid this year. Billy Slater said he came out and he's just said that Fafita obviously just didn't fit that Queensland or their values and stuff like that at the moment, which led a lot to obviously his picking at the moment. I think it's a scary signs though. You're leaving him out for this game. There's going to be a fire lit under Fafita, and if New South Wales take game one here and you bring an angry David Fafita in onto that left edge come game two, that needs to prove his spot out there is going to be pretty crazy. So I think Billy Slater is playing a few mind games here, potentially what David Fafita was doing with the Sydney Roosters in terms of the contract negotiations, which I think has ultimately affected him here.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Sorry to skip ahead, but they've got Brendan Piakura in the team, who I think has a lot of potential. But to have Brendan Piakura in the squad as opposed to David Fafita makes me think it's something purely political. So I'm glad you brought that point up, because, man, it is very surprising that he couldn't even make the extended squad.
Exactly. Like I said earlier, it's political season at the moment. Now the bench, Harry Grant, Mo Fodawaker, Jermaine Hopgood, and Selwyn Cobbo. So we thought that we'd obviously, Harry Grant, he's got his position locked in there. We've got Fodawaker in there, a little bit of muscle that's going to be brought on in the middle there. But you've got Hopgood and Cobbo. For me, I think Billy Slater's looked at this and just the injury concerns that we've seen over recent series, obviously that happened for them last year in terms of the outside backs. We saw Ruben Cotter having to shift out there as well, and Ben Hunt move into that 5'8" role. So he's got cover all across the board in terms of having Selwyn Cobbo in your squad there. He can play at the centre spot, he can play on the wings, and he can cover to a very, very high level in that fullback role. And then we've got Harry Grant, who can come on into that hooker position, which then gives Ben Hunt cover in the half situation. So he's just ticked all of the boxes in there, and he's going to rely on his middles to do a job, which we've got Mo Fodawaker, who's going to be coming on, and he's going to relieve that pressure in the middle. But the only surprising thing, I guess, is Hopgood and his impact when he comes off the bench into this game, where it's going to be and how it's going to be. It's going to take that spot of Pat Carrigan in the middle there. Maybe Carrigan will get a spell earlier, come back on for Lindsay Collins. Hopgood will play some bigger minutes, and then you see Lindsay injected into the back end of it. But yeah, I mean, running that prop and a lock there does leave them a little bit thin.
Yeah, they might stagger it and have, Ruben Cotter just have a blowout in the front row, and then he gets the first spell, and then do what you suggested they might do before they pick the teams and put Carrigan in just for a quick spell before halftime in the front row, and then have Hopgood at that 13. I wouldn't mind seeing them do that. And then just giving Carrigan a rest himself, so you got fresh wheels coming on in the second half. Yeah, it is a very interesting team, but I do like that they, like you said, have all the bases covered. And then if shit really hits the fan, Cobo's a big boy. So Cobo can go into like a second row position if need be, if shit really does go wrong for them. So, yeah, I like what they've done. And Billy Slater showing that he has got a high IQ for the game with these picks, I think. So, yeah, I don't like seeing it as a New South fan, but it is a good team.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, they're completely different, or completely opposite benches as well, as we'll get into. But do you think there's a world where Selwyn Cobbo is injected into the game at some point, not for an injury? So we're saying Queensland's they're playing well, it's all healthy, come the 60-minute mark. Do you think there's a world where Selwyn Cobbo gets injected into the game, and where that would be?
Yeah.
That's the only thing when I'm looking at this. You're looking at a 3-man bench, you know what Grant, Fodawaker and Hopgood's roles are going to be. But in terms of Selwyn Cobbo and the way that they inject him into this, I mean, like you said earlier, they could put him onto that edge role, but it's sort of more going to be as an injury type cover as opposed to a tactical decision. Because both, or more Nanai, but I mean, I guess you could put him into that left hand side in there for Sewer just to bolster that aerial target, I guess. In terms of the combinations, there's not a lot out there that he's got previous combinations with beforehand, but maybe they do look to bring him onto an edge and shift early that way or something. Just in terms of his role, come that 60-minute mark, are we going to see him actually injected into it, and what kind of role? Because, I mean, we saw what happened with Hines and Talakai and that on the flip side of it. So I guess what does Billy have other than injury cover?
Yeah. So are you saying could it really be just a dead position on that interchange? Which I don't think it is. I think there's going to be some player fatigue, and I think they're going to use him maybe one time around that 60-minute mark. And I honestly think it might be in the second row just for maybe Nanai or Sewer, who have done the hard yards the whole game, and just give them a quick rest if they can afford to, and give them another spell come the last back end of the game fresh. So, yeah, I think he will get run, and I think it will be in an unconventional position for him. So I'm going to say somewhere in that second row he does get 10 to 15 minutes.
Nice. Now the reserves here, we've got Felice Kafusi, Brendan Piakura and Ezra Mam. Kafusi obviously been brought in for his experience and around there guiding the young players and just bringing that Queensland mentality there. I really like Brendan Piakura being brought into the side there, blooding the new as he comes through, and it's only going to be better for him as he leaves this the camp leading on to the Broncos for the rest of the season. Ezra Mam as well, it's just next man up, and sort of it's going to be interesting to see that fight for that jersey as we move forward between Mam and Dearden.
Yeah, and Kafusi has been there before, and he's a veteran, and if he does get into the squad, he's going to know what's required of him. And he's a big, solid defender, so he kind of fits the ethos of the team and having, solid, hard-nosed defenders. Piakura, a lot of potential, like I said. He's kind of been in and out of the Broncos this year with injury, so I don't believe his form truly deserves maybe getting a Queensland selection this year, but this is obviously just a pick for the future, getting him used to this environment. And they are pretty short in forwards with Flegler and Gilbert out, so I don't mind him coming in and taking this opportunity to, get some experience in that environment. And then Ezra Mam, he's been outstanding. He deserves to, get in this environment as well and get a few reps with the back line, just in case Dommy Dearden does get injured. He can jump in and seamlessly fill that role. So, yeah, I don't mind those guys, but David Fifita.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a massive out.
Right. It's all lost.
Now we're going to move into the New South Wales squad. It's rookie season, man. There's 6 new faces within. So I'm just going to list the outs here for New South Wales. So we've got Tedesco, Bradman Best, Josh Adokar, Cody Walker, Mitchell Moses, Damien Cook, RCG, Kian Kolamatangi, Cam Murray, Jacob Saifidi, and Clint Gutherson, all left out from what was in Game 3 as of last year, which is a very big reshuffle. Now we get into the back 5. So we've got Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Stephen Crichton, Joseph Suali'i, and Zach Lomax.
Very interesting. I'm glad they've gone with Dylan Edwards. I did have my doubts, given maybe just off that one kick he did against the Warriors. He kind of seemed a little flustered there. But in terms of form, he has been well-deserved at that spot. And that's no slight on James Tedesco, because if they had named James Tedesco, I wouldn't have minded as well, because he has been outstanding too. But I just think it's time for Dylan Edwards to show what he's got in that New South Wales Blues jersey. And he has, and Maguire's loving the consistency, which I agree. He is one of the most consistent players in the NRL. Always good under a high ball, always good for about 200 run meters, and always just maximum effort on the field. So Dylan Edwards, no problems. Brian To'o speaks for itself. He's the meter eater. He's so good out of exit yardage. Stephen Crichton will create a good combination with him. Or if he's on the other side, he's also proven himself as a defender at this level. But the two ones that are kind of surprising to me, I know we kind of floated the idea of Zach Lomax, and he's been in outstanding form, and he's great under a high ball, so I can understand why they would pick him and the skills that he brings to the team. But Joseph Suwali, we kind of left out, and he kind of went under the radar because obviously he's going to rugby next year, so we just thought that Madge might not consider him as you would want to develop younger guys that could be in your team for a while, like your Katoni Stags or like your Targos or someone like that. So he's kind of come in under the radar, but he is a super talented player, also good out of exit yardage sets, also very skillful, a strong defender, can come in and shoot down plays and puts a nice shot on with his shoulders. So I think I have no problem with him coming into the team, but it's just super surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Manager's thinking win now, and that's why he's there. In terms of how they play it is going to be interesting, because you got the history between Stephen Crichton and the history between To'o and Dylan Edwards at the back, just how they all work together. But are you going to put Suali'i and Lomax both on their debuts out on a right side defensively, going up against Hammer, Coates? It's going to be real interesting how they play that, and then how you shuffle it, because it makes sense as we get into the halves to have that combination of Luai, Crichton, To'o out on the left-hand side. And we'll get into Nico Hines' his injury in terms of how I think that rotation might work on the other side of it with the replacement that he's got in there. But how they shape up is going to be interesting. And I think it was very bold to pull trigger on both Lomax and Suali'i in the same game here as well. And Lomax, man, I was really high on him, but I just have a feeling there's going to be a play through this game where he does this miracle play, and it's either going to come off or it's not going to come off. But there is going to be a time where he does something, and it's going to be make or break for him. He's going to play one Origin, this is it, or he's going to be playing Origin for a very long time. So Zach Lomax is going to be really interesting. But then the meter eaters, the yardage that these guys are going to bring. You talk about that DCE kicking game. For the last couple of years, the way that he's able to relieve pressure from them. Now you've got Dylan Edwards, To'o, Crichton, Suali'i, and Lomax returning the ball at a very high rate. Brian To'o, the tackle breaks that he brings every single night, the meters that he brings week in and week out. Stephen Crichton, big game player, that leadership that he's brought to the Bulldogs this season as well. But Suali'i's he's so powerful. Edwards is just always in the right position as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go. The halves combination, though, Nico Hines, Jerome Luai, speaks for itself in terms of Nico Hines. No Nathan Cleary, no Mitch Moses. Putting all your eggs in that basket or in that calf in Nico Hines. So I do hope that he can pull through. Jerome Luai, do you think that he played himself into this position on the weekend, or do you think it was locked up beforehand, or did Burden lose it? Because I thought Burden played very well, and I think he suited being out on that left edge, and he's got history with To'o, Crichton, and the likes of them as well. Yeah, what are your thoughts around Luai?
Yeah, I genuinely think he stole it from Burton. I think Burton had a grasp on it after his performance for the Bulldogs, because I was very impressed with Burton. I thought he had showed a good control of the game to get the Bulldogs into the right positions to blow that game out. And I thought, man, he's showing a composure that we need at the next level. And then Luai came in and did what he did, which we've highlighted earlier on the show. So I think he stole it straight out from under Burton. And it is an interesting combination now. I really just have question marks on how Nico Hines is actually going to play, because for the Cronulla Sharks, his usage rate, to use a basketball term, is super high. He is constantly probing both sides of the field, constantly trying to rush down short sides and, get the ball as much in his hands as he can possible. And with a team so talented like it will be at representative footy, and with great players all around him, it's hard to know how aggressive he is and going to be handling the ball. So it is interesting. I guess we'll know when we know. But I think having Luai next to him, like I said earlier, who has played with a guy who is, the centerpiece to a very good team in Nathan Cleary, he has that experience to just, hang out on his side and inject himself where he can and do his left foot steps where he can and play the perfect Robin to a guy like Nico Hines. So I'm nervous, but if it can work theoretically how I think it will, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, nice. We move into the forward pack. Jake Trbojevic named it captain. We've got two Manly players named as captains for this state. Fly birds fly. Reece Robson gets the hooker role in the starting position. I believe we both had that coming into it. Payne Haas at prop and Cam McInnes at lock.
Yeah, I did have an inkling just through reports and stuff that Cam McInnes would get a spot in this team. And it especially makes sense given that he is a member of the spine and he will be able to work well with Nico Hines. And looking at what they've named on the bench, which we'll get to shortly, he will probably get some reps at hooker as well. So he's kind of playing two positions in the spine to link up with Nico Hines as a Shark. So it's interesting. I probably would have still stuck with Yo, because I am a lot more of a fan of Yo's ball playing ability as a 13 and his ability to just take the ball to the line and make the right options to his front door or his back door. But in terms of, these guys up the front, there's a big workman mentality with Payne Haas, who never misses tackles, always does hard carries, and then the ultimate workman in Jake Trbojevic. So it's kind of like we're trying to match the forward pack of Queensland, which obviously in my predicted New South Wales team, I thought they were going to do something a little opposite. I thought they were just going to go with size, with Utoka Manu in there as well. And then I even floated the idea of Hazelton, which after seeing his defense in the weekend, I completely regret putting that on camera. But yeah, I like what they've done. You know what you're going to get with Jake Trbojevic at the end of the day. And he is a leader, which I look through this team, and there isn't a whole lot of people that can be out and out captains of this team besides Isaiah Yo, which they've named on the bench, so it probably can't be him. So I don't mind him being there because he is a safe option. He's a reliable option.
Yeah, for me it's the hooker concern. It's I love having Reece Robson there. He doesn't play 80 minutes for his club week in, week out, so it's going to be Cam McInnes that jumps into there at some point. And we've seen him play hooker for the Sharks this season. It wasn't pretty. So that's, for me, the big concern. But then I guess on the lock side of it, and you alluded to it a couple of weeks ago, in terms of these ball-playing locks, and Nathan Cleary is very used to playing with Isaiah Yao, and the way that Yao plays, it's almost like a Cleary and Yao, and then Luai follows from that. So I do like that Cam McInnes is there, allowing Nico Hines to play that front foot ball and be that controlling sort of force if he is going to be playing in this one. And then I guess you do have Yao to fall back on if Nico Hines isn't going to be up to it, and Cam McInnes can just play his just barnstorming role coming off the bench, just eating up tackles with that chin and that missing tooth. And it'll be interesting to see how they play. But I do really like the rotation that we've got there, and I like that Gerbo has been named captain. He's an Origin player. There's a lot of guys in there that could have been potentially named captain. Obviously, you got Isaiah Yao, who's a club captain. Stephen Crichton, who's a club captain. I would have liked that. But just Jibba, I think he'll G them up for this, and he's a big game player, and we've seen what he does in that sky blue jersey before as well. Now the second row is Angus Crichton, Liam Martin. Liam Martin does get the nod. There's a lot of injury concern over shadowing him at the moment, and we've got a lot of cover on that right hand side and edge forwards as well. And obviously Angus Crichton, fantastic form this season. It's good to see he's earned his spot there.
Yeah, Liam Martin, just a safe pick. He did have some people sniffing down his neck in terms of Olakau'atu, Hudson Young, and stuff like that. But I'm a big fan of Liam Martin. I always like the effort he shows. He's always, a hard-nosed defender, hard-nosed carrier who always chases kicks really well. He's got a knack for the try line, not so much this year, but last year he showed that. And then Angus Crichton, I just think, is a pure reward for form because he has been outstanding this year. He has been, if not the second best, maybe even the best second rower in the competition. And he's just a strong carrier, good offloader, so he adds a little bit of X factor, but also gets through his work as well. So, yeah, no problems at all with the second rowers.
All right, now let's get into the bench because I hate this bench, man. It is this is going to change before kickoff at some point. I really, really hope it does, but this bench will change before kickoff. So we've got Isaiah Yao, Hamole Olakau'atu, Spencer Leniu, and Hudson Young. For me, the big one is Spencer Leniu. He's sat out a lot of the season due to suspension. I love the role that he's going to bring into this. Obviously, he's just a power wrecking ball off the bench that he plays that role perfectly in club side, and he suits Origin fantastically. But I'm surprised that it is now. Isaiah Yao, obviously it speaks for itself. That rotation is going to be probably he comes into that locking role. Cam McInnes will give Reece Robson that little bit of a break, probably 10 minutes before halftime or something like that. Something similar to what Pat Carrigan will be. Just give him that extended break before then coming back in. And Yao will play in the middle and sort of up the tempo a little bit there. Hamole, like we alluded to earlier, I feel like he's going to be that guy that can either come in and play in the middle or sort of cover that edge role. But I think he's going to be the one come kickoff that gets shifted. I'm worried about this Liam Martin concern, and I think he's going to be that one that moves into the starting lineup, and then we see that reshuffle from there. And Hudson Young, again, another edge forward in there. His form is warranted this selection, I think, absolutely. But just that role, these roles for me, how does that rotation work? You look at Queensland, we've got Harry Grant, we know what that's going to be. We've got Mo Fotuaika, he's going to come in and he's going to relieve that pressure in the middle. And Hopgood's going to relieve that pressure from Pat Carrigan, will also do a job in the middle. And then we've got cover on the outsides. And we look at this and we can see what Yao, McInnes and Robson are going to do. But then Hamole, Leniu, Hudson Young, what are their roles coming into this? How does the cover work? I'm worried. I trust in the selections above in the starting team, but when I look at this bench, I just think, how's this going to change? How's it going to impact? What are their roles?
I completely agree with you. I 100% agree with you. We were just talking about Queensland, how they answer all the questions with their bench, and all of the selections kind of make sense, with maybe the exception of whether or not Cobbo will actually get a chance in the game. But he does cover the backs if an injury were to happen, which injuries can happen in such an intense environment. So at least that question is answered for them. Whereas the back situation for us, unless someone gets high tackled, Matt Burton gets activated. But other than that, it's going to be, we're going to be sweating injuries to our back line. So with Nico Hines not at 100% as well, that is a huge, huge risk that we're taking. And, these players are all good players that we've named. I like how you highlighted Spencer Leniu because, I don't know if he's played enough to warrant it with form, but when we have seen him play, he has been an absolute cannonball off that bench, and he is so explosive in limited minutes. So I actually like him coming off that bench for us. Isaiah Yeo will, relieve Reece Robson or Cam McInnes, not in the hooker position, obviously, but obviously Cam McInnes will go to 9, and Isaiah Yeo will add that spark right before halftime for us. And then Olakau'atu and Hudson Young, what they do with Olakau'atu is the big question here. Does he come in for some front row cover for Jake Trebojevic? Does he go in on that right side to cover Liam Martin? Hudson Young, does he just straight swap for Angus Crichton? Can he play in the front row? There's just a whole lot of questions that, maybe Madge is thinking on levels beyond us, but I just don't practically think it's as reassuring as it should be with these guys. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the bench. I hope Burton kind of steals a spot from one of them, honestly, just to have, you know, my heart feeling a little bit at ease. But yeah, not a huge fan of the bench.
I think before kickoff, Burden he'll float into that 17th jersey. Hudson Young will come out into the 18th man because Burden can obviously cover you in the centres. He can cover you at 5A, and that halves rotation can sort of change from there. And then, like you said, in terms of HIAs and concerns around that, there's a lot of concerns in the middle, but obviously in the centre role, we're seeing a lot of it this year, which Hudson Young can then move into that bench role and cover at a pinch out there as well for them. So I think that's the change that we'll see, and I do hope we see that come kickoff. But we move into the reserves, and now this is where it all comes down. Nico Hines, we'll find out in the next 2 to 3 days, apparently, whether he will be moving forward as the number 7 for them. But Luke Keary has been named, obviously in the 19 jersey here, but he is going to be that like-for-like cover, Madge has said, for Nico Hines. Now, I get it with Angus Crichton, Suoli'i, Luke Keary, the concussion concerns, they worry me a little bit coming into this around Luke Keary, and then the role that he plays. Is he going to come in and play 7, or is Luai going to move to the 7 jumper and Luke Keary comes into the 5'8" position, which he's been playing all season? And then how does your rotation go from there? Because you've got Crichton on the left, Angus, that is. Do you look at moving Suoli'i over to the left and then Crichton to the right, just to bleed some combinations? Because Suoli'i's obviously been playing left this season, but then if you're moving Crichton from left to right, do you move To'o to join him? And then where does Lomax go? There's a lot of juggling, I think, that's going to happen with this. And I'm just a little bit confused as to why Luke Keary has been named as that guy. I'd rather just invest in Burnett. The form that he's bringing at the moment, his kicking game alone, the combinations that he has defensively, I'm a bit perplexed by that.
Yeah, I can almost see the point from what you said with them having Crichton, them having Suoli'i in there. It is someone that is familiar with those guys, and you can juggle the combinations to sort of maximize Keary's impact if he were to come into the team as a straight swap for Nico Hines. But ultimately, I like Luke Keary. He is a very good player, but he is a downgrade in talent. And I don't know if he will be able to provide the most benefit to helping New South Wales get a victory over the strong Queensland team as maybe just a Burton and Luai combination, to be honest. And I'm surprised they haven't added too many of like Burton's boys into this team. I think maybe an Addo Carr would be floating around here somewhere, just because we've seen how good his combination has been with him and those early kicks and stuff like that. He does have Crichton there, so there is someone he is familiar with. But yeah, with all the injuries that's going on, this looks somewhat makeshift, and it looks like we have been scrambling, which is not a good sign. But
we are scrambling, though. We definitely are scrambling. And we're picking this apart a little bit, but credit has to go to Madge because he's had to pick this team due to injuries and everything. I mean, we've done our rolling squads as we go through week in and week out, and it feels like you're backtracking. You're taking 1 step forward but 2 steps back to try and cover it. So we are picking it apart a little bit, but he hasn't had the full selection pool.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping for the best, man. I'm just hoping for the best. I will just shout out Mitch Barnett. He has deserved to make it with the form he's shown, especially last week for the Warriors and all through the year, to be honest. And, he can just come in and do a job as a middle, as an edge, as a 13, as a real push. But he is a really versatile forward that's hardworking and kind of fits the mold of this New South Wales Blues forward pack we got here, because other than maybe the X factor of Olakau'atu's like offloading ability and Spencer Lenu's hard-nosed carrying, it does look like a very workman-type forward pack, which he kind of fits that mold as well. And I believe he's picked this to kind of battle Queensland and, their work rate and their ability to keep going throughout a game. So, I like Mitch Barnett's inclusion. I hope he gets a run, maybe not in this game, but, coming through the series.
Yeah, I almost would have had him in there over Lenu on that bench spot there because I agree with you 100%. He's picked a workman team. They've gone up into the mountains. They're going to do their preseason up there. They're looking for a 12-10. That's what Madge wants result. Come game one. It's obviously in Sydney. We see low scoring games in game one. It's going to be, he's wanting 12-10, 12-8. He's wanting to get in there, grind something out. And that's the team that he's put forward. But it's going to be interesting. We're going to see changes before kickoff. It'll be interesting to see how Billy sort of changes his squad a little bit, if it even changes, which I don't see that happening. But yeah, New South Wales, I do hope that bench rotation does change because I hope that we've learnt from past Freddie decisions, I guess we could say. Now we're going to get into the round 13 preview. We'll spend a lot of time on our state of origin, talking all of that. So we'll go through and just list it off quickly. So we're obviously in round 13. These odds are accurate as of Tuesday at 6 p.m. So Parramatta, they take on the Sharks at CommBank Stadium. The Eels are $1.88 favourites in this one. Sharks are $1.96 underdogs, with the line sitting at 0.5. That'll obviously change. Now the Sharks, Trindle returns for them to fill the void left by Nico Hines. Jack Williams, he comes in to start for Cam McInnes at lock. The Eels, they get Gutho back, Moses back from injury. Penasini also, he is back. Gutho being back, though, pushes Blaze Taulagi to the bench. I would have liked to have seen him in that wing position, and Brown shifts back to 5'8". Off of Hingawi, he starts at lock for Hopgood. The Eels have a 63% win rate here. The Sharks have a 55% win. Of the last 6 games between the two, each team has won 3 and lost 3. They've split the last 2 games between each other at CommBank, having won 1 each. No Hines for the Sharks is obviously a big one. They still have a strong team here, and they were severely embarrassed by the Panthers last week, but the Eels, they've been awful. You could say, obviously, that is due to mostly injuries. You've got coaching concerns now to bring into that one. But I like Parramatta here. I think they'll turn around. Moses, Gutho being back for them gives them a huge boost, and that's what I'm going to back.
Yeah, obviously, no Hines is a crucial factor for the Sharks, and he went down early in the game last week, but I think they were just going to lose that game anyway because the Panthers were on an absolute roll, and the Sharks, were making some very uncharacteristic errors. The Sharks have actually beat the Eels in the last 2 games, and Eels had Moses in both of those occasions, and in one of those occasions, Hines was actually out for the Sharks. So I think the Sharks, given the form that they've had throughout this whole year, represent some decent value as underdogs in this game, despite Moses and Gutherson coming back, because at the end of the day, the Eels have still just fired their coach. So they've got an interim coach in Trent Barrett. And the Sharks, laid an egg last week, but they've been pretty dominant all year. And the Eels have really showed a lack of effort over the last 2-3 weeks. So I reckon the Sharks and dog money is a bit of a steal value-wise. So it's meant to be clear conditions, which I think suits the Sharks style a little better as well. So I'm actually going to go the Sharks 1-12 at $3.50.
Nice. The Sharks have conceded 11 tries to left centres. The Eels have conceded 11 tries to left centres this season, 6 in their last 5 games. I'm going to double centre combo here. I'm going Kale Aero into Will Penasini at $10.75 odds in that one.
It's so big. Oh my God, it's so big.
The Knights, they take on the Bulldogs at McDonald Jones Stadium. The Knights are $1.55 favourites in this one. Dogs, 2.46 underdogs. The line sitting at 4.5. Sexton Hutcho, they team up as the halves with Burton away. I like that Sexton has kept his 7 jersey. I thought he played fantastic last week. Keras moves into the centres, Blake Wilson to the wing, and Preston moves into the second row for the injured Viliami Kikau. For the Knights, after the bye, they've come back all happy from Bali. No real changes made here. Saifidi returns, and Christian Mapapalangi, he is in to replace Bradman Best. So 46 meeting between the two teams, 22 wins each and 1 draw between them. Both have 50% win rates here at McDonald Jones. The Bulldogs won the most recent meeting in round 7, 36-12, but we know the history that's happened between them and the Knights in the previous 2 games. Bulldogs obviously have a few big outs in key positions in this one and key leaders, but I'm actually going to back them here. I really like Keras moving into Critter to fill Critter's spot. Sexton killed it last week, which is a very big tick for me, and Preston coming in for Kikau as well. I actually don't mind that at all. So give me some Dogs of War here. I think it'll be a grinded out fair, and I like them as an underdog.
Yeah, well, it shows you how difficult these bye rounds are to predict, because I'm actually going the other way. I'm going the Knights. I think the Bulldogs, they won the last game, so the Knights will be looking for revenge. And they did score a combined 100 points on the Doggies last year in those 2 games. And, for some reason, the Knights don't have much of an origin presence this year with, Gagai not getting selected, and then Bradman Best is injured, but he would have been the only player other than Ponga that probably would have got selected, while the Bulldogs lose 3 stars in Burden, Crichton to origin, and then kick out to injury as well. So I think they're actually going to be a little depleted here. And the Knights have been playing pretty consistent lately. So I'm just going to back them because they've won their last 4 games. And I think they can do it at home, which they're usually pretty strong as well. So I'm going to go the Knights -6.5 at $2.10.
Tasty. If you cast your mind back to last season, Bradman Best, bye round, got a tattoo in Bali. I believe I just saw Leo Thompson just got himself a tattoo. Bradman Best came back and absolutely killed it. So if you're playing Supercoach fans or your fantasy, look at captaining Leo Thompson in this one, because the boys got a tat after bye round, and we all know what happens with the Knights there. Since David Armstrong has entered the Knights team, they have not lost. They come off a bye, obviously, and he's scored 5 tries in 4 games. The Dogs have a great defensive spread this season. They lead the most points to edge defences, having only given up 2 tries to fullbacks this season. But when Armstrong is hot at the moment, so that's what I'm going to take here. David Armstrong into the Dogs to win at $7.25. Sorry. Now the Panthers, they take on the Dragons at Bluebet Stadium. The Panthers $1.42 favourites still in this one. Dragons are $2.90 underdogs. The line is at 7.5. So Dan Laurie has been named at fullback. Jesse McLean on the wing. Schneider returns. Liam Henry and Lindsay Smith also move into starting roles for Penrith. The bench consists of Preston Rickey, Maverick Gaia, and Tyrone Peachy. For the Dragons, Sione Fainu comes in to replace Lomax, and the Faiga brothers join the backline for Bird and Ravalawa. Jesse McShee, he is the new halfback coming in for Ben Hunt, and Luciano Leilua replaces Jaden Sewer on the edge there. So a 60% win rate for the Panthers, and a 39% win rate here for the Dragons. A 7-18 record for them at Bluebet Stadium. The Panthers have won 6 of their last 7 games against the Dragons. A mass exit for the Panthers, as always, in Origin time. But they just have this side where it's just next man up mentality, and these guys are hungry to prove a point as to why they deserve to be a Penrith Panther. And I think they'll get the job in this one. Give me Penrith.
Yeah, completely agree. And the Dragons themselves are underestimatedly hurt by Origin themselves, with Hunt and Lomax going out for them. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Panthers. They've won the last 2 meetings with full strength teams, but even though they are depleted, I can trust Ivan Cleary to come up with a game plan to beat this Dragons team, who, still have some very sketchy losses on their record. And last week was just an example of that as well. And the Panthers next man up, like you said, man. And they still have those big Kiwi forwards in Leota and Fisher Harris. And Colin Schneider have had plenty of reps this season with Cleary being out for so long. So I'm actually going to back the Panthers too. And I think they can do a comfortable jobbie on the depleted Dragons. I'm going Panthers -8.5 at $2.05.
Nice. Good punting there. And I'm taking Isaac Tago into the Panthers to win at $3 in this and that one. The Dolphins, they take on the Raiders at KO Stadium. The Finns are $1.61 favourites here. The Raiders, $2.33 underdogs, and the line is at 3.5. The Raiders, Papali'i returns from suspension for them. Mariota joins him in the starting side to replace Hudson Young. For the Dolphins, Trey Fuller comes in to replace Hammer, and Nichols moves in to replace Kaufusi. So 2 games played between these two. Both have won 1 game each. At KO Stadium, though, the Dolphins have a 7-10 record, and the Raiders have a 60% record, having won 6 of their 10 games here. Last time they played at KO, though, the Finns won 20-14. Hammer is obviously a big loss for them, but we've seen exactly what Trey Fuller can do when he comes in to fill that void. I reckon this is probably the toughest one to pick out of them all, but I'm going to actually lean towards Canberra in this one. I know I have no right saying that after what they put on in terms of a performance against Roosters last week at home, but it's just, this is that Ricky Stewart squad. They'll have a performance like that, and then next week they'll just bounce back and they'll grind something out. He will have torn a strip off them. He might have dropped half the squad, but whoever comes in for them will just do a jobby. So I'm going to take the Raiders to win this one in an ugly and a tight one.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I think I like them in their spiritual home of Redcliffe. They do lose Hammer and Kafusi, but they haven't had those guys for most of the year, and they've still been great, especially with Trey Fuller's form. So, Raiders losing Hudson Young is arguably more important as their forwards are already missing Hoskins and Horsburgh at the moment, and it's just looking a bit thin for them. So, even though the Raiders have some hearty wins, they have shown against the Roosters and the Sharks that they can get rolled, whereas the Dolphins lost to a hearty Warriors team last week, but they have been a little more consistent through the year, and I definitely like what I saw from Herbie Farnworth starting to find his form. So, they split the games last year, Dolphins winning the game here at Redcliffe, but they were both 1-12. So I'm actually going to double stake this one. I'm going Dolphins 1-12 at $3.40.
Nice, tasty. And my best bet for this one is I'm just going Jermaine Osako into Xavier Savage, both anytime try scorers at $3.20. To end it, the Roosters, they take on the Cowboys at Allianz Stadium. The Roosters, $1.15 favourites. The Cowboys are huge, $5.50 underdogs, and the line is at 17.5. For the Roosters, Pauga joins the backline for Suoli'i. Terrell May, he comes in to start at prop, which I'm really, really excited to see. Butcher comes in at second row to replace, in at second row for Collins and Crichton. Egan is on the bench in the way of Egan Butcher for Spencer Leniu, and Kerry has been named at 5'8". He's expected to be released from the New South Wales camp, obviously depending on the Hines injury. Cowboys, though, no Holmes, Taulangi, Nanai, Robson, Dearden, or Cotter. The biggest exit of the lot for them. I'm really excited for all of these guys to come back from Origin camp. I think that'll be a pivotal point in their season, whether they can just turn it around completely, especially in Dearden and Cotter. I think it's going to be very beneficial for those captains to be in that environment. Clifford comes in, Braden Burns, Granville, McKaylee, and Fine Fuiaki. They all move into starting spots. 41st meeting here between the two. The Roosters having 127 and the Cowboys only having 113. The Roosters have a 64% win rate here at home, and the Cowboys have a 35% win rate on the road, having only won 88 from 23 games here at Allianz Stadium. The Cowboys won the most recent meeting between the two, but prior to that, the Roosters had actually won 5 straight. The Cowboys obviously losing a huge amount of players due to Origin. It's just Roosters here. I think they obviously lose quite a few, but the depth that they bring in is just proven depth in those positions. They've done jobs for them countless times beforehand as well. So give me the Chooks here.
Yeah, in terms of my tipping, I will be backing the Roosters. And the line is what it is because of the Roosters' depth, like you said, as they've still got a lot of talent in this lineup. Both teams brutalized by Origin, but it's the Roosters who look less affected just because of all the good players they have to come into the team. But in saying that, they are missing some of their key contributors, especially in 4 vital forwards in Crichton, Egan Butcher, Collins, and Leniu. And the Cowboys, I'm not going to say they're back on track because the quality of opponents has been poor, but they have won the last 2, and they did win the last meeting between these two, 20-6. So I am picking the Roosters, I'll just say that much. But I will take the Cowboys line plus 17.5 at $2 because it's just too bloated for me. And they do have a genuine chance here to kind of make it close with the Roosters being depleted themselves. So I'll take that Cowboys line.
Nice. My best bet for this game, I think it'll just be right side all day in this one. Give me Dom Young, give me Joseph Manu and Teddy, all anytime try scorers at $5.25, and I'm double staking that one. Now, obviously, the Broncos, Titans, Manly, the Storm, South and Waz, and the Tigers, they all have the bye. Our best bets for this one, we'll go through them now before ending on the repeat sets in the 40-20s. So I've got Kale Aero into Will Penasini at $10.75. David Armstrong into the Dogs to win at $7.25. Isaac Tango into the Panthers to win at $3. Jermaine Osako, Xavier Savage, both anytime try scorers at $3.20. Dom Young, Manu, Teddy, all anytime try scorers at $5.25, and I've double staked that one.
Yeah, and I've got Sharks 1-12 at $3.50. Knights minus 6.5 at $2.10. Panthers minus 8.5 at $2.05. Dolphins 1-12 at $3.40. That is my double stake for the week. And then Roosters, Cowboys plus 17.5 at $2. I will be tipping the Roosters head to head, but Cowboys line is what I'll take.
Nice. Repeat sets our lock of the week. This week, mate, I'm just going Roosters, Dom Young at $1.66. I think they get the win here. I think Dom Young has to score. He's due. $1.66 odds in that one. Lock it up.
I mean, it's competitive with me, bro. Whenever you try to go jammy, I go even jammier, and I've done it here again. I've gone Panthers head to head at $1.45.
There we go. That's your lock. But you're hitting them, mate. I like it. My 40-20 bet, though, this week, I've been boosting the odds up, and it's no different this week. Give me all centres here. Will Penasini, Isaac Tango, Joey Manu, all anytime try scorers at $10.43.
Damn, and you're obviously competitive when it comes to 40-20 bet value, because I've actually gone a little high by my standards. I've actually got a $7.31 odds bet here. It is just a two-legger, but it's a little bit of an upset two-legger. Sharks head-to-head into Dolphins 1-12. That came out at $7.31, so I'm pretty happy with that value. Hopefully it hits.
Yeah, tasty. I like that, actually. That's worth some jam. That concludes another show from the lads, obviously. So enjoy the depleted round. What footy is available to you. Good luck in all your super coach and fantasy. It's a nightmare of a time at the moment. We'll see you guys all next week as we preview what's going to be happening in the State of Origin. But up the Blues until then.